Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, we're going to start this City of Gallatin Council meeting. It's our work session meeting. Ms. Kitchell, can you do roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Fennell.
Here.
Councilman Alexander is not here yet. Councilman Fan. Here. Councilwoman George.
Here.
Councilman Hayes. Councilwoman Love.
Here.
And Councilman Overton.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Connie. Next, approval of the minutes.
Motion approved, second.
Got a motion approved by Councilman Overton, second by Councilman Hayes. Any questions, any changes? None, Ms. Love? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of the minutes. Next, we're going to jump down to public recognition. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to address the committee? Please come forward. State your name and your address.
My name's Dominic Wade, and I'm a business owner, and my family's a business owner at 1176 Long Hollow Park, known as the Copper Still, and then Mohawk Fabric Company and DNS Industries is at 1381 Gateway Drive in the industrial park. My family and employees have moved here to Sumner County over the last year and a half, 4 different families, and we've been involved with 2 new businesses locally. One is the Copper Still. And when we looked at that business, my family comes from 25 years of wine and liquor and beer retail experience, and that we thought that this was a fantastic place to buy a small little store and grow it. And at that particular time, I looked at the statutes here in the city of Gallatin and saw that there was a 12,000 population limit per license, and there were 7 licenses here in the city of Gallatin. And so we went ahead and made that multiple $100,000s of investment into that small business with plans to grow it. Since then, there have been some challenges with retailing wine and spirits here in the state of Tennessee. Total Wine has had multiple litigation against the state statutes, trying to expand their footprint, as well as Amazon delivery hubs, as well as there's talk about putting spirits into the grocery stores. In the other states, New York and New Jersey, and where we have had licenses, New Jersey has a very controlled state where a license is beer, wine, and spirits, and in one retail store, and you can't get it anywhere else in the state unless it's licensed. New York has an open license program that is problematic because there are no defined population requirements to issue a license. However, you have to go in front of the state board, and the state board arbitrarily selects who can get a license and who can't, depending on whether they feel there are too many or not. And having been on the other side of that, that ends up in causing some real issues in a long-term environment, because at some point you're going to have a line of folks applying for license, and you're going to be like, whoa, time out, too many, and you're not going to have any guidance to direct that. Right now, I believe the projection of the population of the city of Gallatin is around 50,000. That's 7,000 residents per license at this point. That's almost half of what this original statute was. The forecast of growth is pretty amazing, and I do say that my store in particular, as well as a couple other stores, are underperforming stores for the forecast. Before this statute came out to issue licenses with no requirements, there was actually a lot of interest in licenses and big money to build bigger stores, more quality stores, because it's not about the quantity of stores, it's about the quality of stores. And that all went away when the city was taking a look at this new statute of opening that up. So I could talk about this for hours. I just would really appreciate that the city council really take a look at this, and whether you want to know the operators of wine and spirits, and here in the city of Gallatin as locals, or you really want big, giant stores coming in, because when they do, the small stores will go out of business, and your neighbors and friends that own them now will have serious challenges, because we can't compete with billion-dollar mega chains like Total Wine. Also, one social issue that will come up when someone puts their life savings into a store and something regulatory changes that, they start to cut corners. They start to find customers that shouldn't have alcohol. You'll start finding 50 ml Fireball containers all over the city with locations all over, and there are some other issues that go about this. But truly look at why Gallatin is an amazing place, of how you got here, and this one small piece isn't going to make it any better, right? There's no shortage of alcohol in grocery stores or convenience stores, pharmacies, between beer and wine. Spirits is the last thing that these licenses have, and I think it is readily available locally. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Cam Patel, and I'm in Gallatin since 2004. I think I'm not good talker as Dominic, but I think we need some more liquor license in Gallatin, because Lebanon has 15 or 17 license, and they got still 4 opens. Franklin, Tennessee, they got 17 license. They have 6 opens. Nobody, like, if you guys even open, nobody gonna apply. Every single person not gonna apply. Every single person, they're not gonna open corner-to-corner store, you know? They have to have some amount of money to open the store, at least $400,000 to $500,000 investment in a liquor store to open. So there's not like people gonna comes and open get a license and open it, no. So I believe we need, and Gallatin is growing big times. So we need to have some more licenses. And more jobs. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone next in the queue?
Good evening, all. Pascal Jovans, 1335 Longolo Pike. Another interesting topic on liquor license. Like we can see, we have both sides here. One small business I happen to frequent with Copper, who have been really involved in the neighborhood by organizing meetings and testing, and it's a great thing, and I can agree with him. I rather see small stores like him, like big giant, like we see on other cities, so that's a thing. But what I would be really interested to hear, because we have not, is to hear what our emergency department think about that, opening more store, police and fire, because they're involved in all that stuff. And stuff I would like to see too, that we can see conflict of interest between some of the people who are going to vote on that. So that would be interesting if there was actually something who prevent people voting on that in a council to get a license for a year or 2 years. So make sure their vote doesn't appear to be going one way, or to get more business in their stores. That's all. Thank you. Oh, and I need to thank Jeff to put the meetings on the website, and thank the mayor for the quick action on that. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jeff.
Anyone else like to speak? Seeing none, public comments closed. Next on the agenda is mayor comments. Mayor?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Fennell. Just several events that I want to make sure that everyone is aware of. On this Saturday, I'll begin by saying it is Nick Tuttle's birthday, but also there's important cleanup happening with the Cumberland River Compact. They'll be doing the Lot 4 area. I think they have some kayaks available. People are welcome to come and bring their own kayaks, and if you're looking to get one of the kayaks that's available, you need to sign up to participate in that, and that goes from 9 until 12, 9 until 12 on that day. Also, this Saturday is opening day for the Miracle League of Gallatin, very exciting day. Actually, just did a ribbon cutting at Trailhead Dentistry, and they have a promotion going where they sponsor one athlete for every 5 new patients that they have. Well, they now have enough new patients that they are sponsoring the entire Miracle League. So it was fun to learn that and exciting to hear about their work in that way. But anyway, the Miracle League of Gallatin is celebrating their opening day on this Saturday at 10 a.m. That's the opening ceremony. There will be a game to follow. Of course, also this Saturday, the Pedal for Paws event, raising money for the Spay and Neuter Alliance, is happening at 8 a.m. That starts at the Gallatin Civic Center. And on that day, there's also Square Fest happening on the square. That goes from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Should be really pretty weather. Parking is going to be a challenge more than usual this year, but everybody will work it out and find ways and places to park and participate in the event. Also, for those that might want to share with their neighbors in need, there's a mobile food pantry happening on Winchester Street. It's sponsored by Unlimited Potential, a ministry in that church. That's from 9 until 11:30 a.m. And I think that is everything that's happening this Saturday, but it's very reminiscent of pre-COVID times. So it's going to be an exciting day for Gallatin and for its citizens, I do believe. Next week, coming up on the 5th, is the National Day of Prayer. It's happening across the street in the parking lot of the First United Methodist Church at noon. I mentioned, I think, on the 5th. And then on the 6th, there's another food giveaway, actually one happening on the 6th and 7th at Gallatin Shalom Zone from 9 to 1 both of those days. The Gallatin Farmers Market is open on that day from 9 to 1. And the Gallatin Shalom Zone is hosting their Community Day. And I think the Antiques, I should mention this as well, the Antique and Classic Cars Cruise-Ins is now happening on Thursdays, Mr. Brown? Thursday nights, and from 4 until 8 p.m. So that starts this week on Thursday. So I think that is it for all of my mentions. Oh, I should mention the run for the Rosemont Derby. Can you still get tickets to that? That happens at Rosemont on
May 7th.
on May 7th. And that just a few hours. It's a fun event happening there. Gallatin Chamber Golf Tournament is sold out, so you don't need to know about that.
Election Day.
Oh, yes, early voting ends, I use the sheet Angela gives me, but yes, early voting goes through this Thursday, and the next Tuesday will be the actual voting day. So if you want to vote in Gallatin at Hartsville Pike Church of Christ, you have until Thursday, and then I think it's down to 4:30 each day, or 4 maybe, 4:30. And then Election Day happens next Tuesday, and the polls will be open 7 to 7, but you have to vote at your precinct on that day. So thank you for that reminder, Ms. George. And I think that's all for me.
Thank you, Mayor. And at this time, we're going to move on to our regular agenda. First on the agenda is ordinance number 02205-20, amending Gallatin Municipal Code, Chapter 3. This is for alcoholic beverages, and Ms. McCauley.
Yes, I think I'm going to take the lead, and Ms. Kittrell's going to jump in if and when she needs to. So the council had asked back probably a couple months ago now that we look at amending the ordinance on liquor stores. And we are in the process of doing that. And in that process, reading through the entire chapter, I noticed that the entire chapter really needed to be updated, and it didn't make sense to piecemeal it. And so that's what I've brought to you tonight, is an updated Chapter 3, and I'll kind of go over that in a minute. But some of the council had asked that I give a little bit of history, and I'll tell you, it was a little bit difficult, honestly, to find a lot of the history. Ms. Kittrell searched, and my office searched, so I'll tell you what I've been able to come up with. In 1967, I believe it was December 7th, was when the city had a referendum that allowed us to open liquor stores. So we've had liquor stores in Gallatin since 1967, and at that time, I haven't been able to find the ordinance, but there was an ordinance that limited liquor stores to 3. And so it wasn't based on population, it was based on number. And it was limited to 3. And then in 1981, that ordinance changed from a limit of 3 to 1 store for 5,500. Someone had asked about population. So in 1968, the population was around 13,000. Probably a little bit less because I'm basing that on the 1970 census, but it was around that. And then in 1981, when we changed the ordinance, our population was about 17,000, and that was based on the 1980 census. Then in 1996, there was a referendum that allowed liquor by the drink in Gallatin. And in 1997, the city passed an ordinance, which did pass. The voters wanted liquor by the drink. In 1997, the city passed an ordinance allowing on-premises consumption of alcoholic beverages. And that was just based on the referendum. And Gallatin had the first liquor by the drink establishment opened in 1998. And I don't think Ms. Kittrell has been able to determine what that establishment was, and I haven't either. But there was one that opened. Oh, Charlie's, okay. It was not in the minutes or in any official city document. So, in 2004, there was an ordinance that amended the number from 5,500 that was passed in 1981 and reduced down to we could have liquor stores for every 4,000 citizens. And that allowed up to 6 liquor stores, but according to the minutes from council, we already had 7. Somehow, liquor stores got opened without following the ordinance, I suppose, and so there were, according to the minutes, already 7 liquor stores. And then in 2011, I know for certain there were 7 liquor stores because that's when, I think one had closed possibly, and that's when Copper Steel came in. Mr. Haynes came and got a license for Copper Steel in 2011. And then in 2014 was when the ordinance got amended once again on liquor stores that amended the population from 1 for every 4,000 residents to 1 to every 12,000 residents. And in 2014, the city's population was 33,225, so we have been capped for quite some time, at least since 2004. Looks like we've had 7 liquor stores, and we've been at a cap. And council asked that we look at that and consider what we want to do, and in different meetings, you asked and directed me actually to draft the ordinance with no limitation, and so that's what I've done, and I'll kind of go over that with you.
I was just going to add that in 2011 or 2014, when it was changed from 4,000 to 12,000 people, that happened at the time that wine was beginning to be sold in liquor stores. So I think the council at that time felt like the impact on liquor stores could be so negative that they wanted to limit them more. And that's why, of course, I wasn't here then, but that's what I understand was the impetus for that.
Right, that's what I understand as well.
Is that what I
Wine
said?
sold in grocery stores.
Yeah, wine
I
in
knew what
grocery
you-
stores, I may have said, I'm
That was
sorry.
when the state was passing that statute, even though it didn't come until later, it didn't come into existence in the grocery stores. The state had taken action to allow that, and I think the city, in an
Preempted.
effort to protect the liquor stores, changed that ordinance. And I don't know, I had gone over with you before what other cities have. I had handed that out. I've got that again if you want it. Or I can just go ahead, and I'm really just going to try to hit high points because there's a lot. I don't know if you've read it, but I spent a lot of time. And there are a few things that need to be updated, a few typos I'm going to tell you about. But if you have any questions specifically, you can ask me. But otherwise, I'm just going to kind of get started and to let you know that one thing that I did, I changed the structure around a little bit where it made a little bit more sense, and it wasn't where all alcohol is in one division, beers in a division. One thing that we do need to determine is what you want the effective date to be, and I guess that depends on which direction you're going to go. If you are going to stick with what you said earlier and open up the number of liquor stores, I think we need to have an effective date that is out somewhat to give Ms. Kittrell some time to get applications formulated and drafted and to kind of get prepared. You agree with that? Okay. So I'll just kind of hit some high points in this ordinance. It's all in Chapter 3 of alcoholic beverages. There's some definitions. I'm not going to go through most of this. If you will look at Section 3-54, and it's on page 13, there it says reserved, and I just want to point out to you that that is reserved because in our current ordinance, although it's a different number, that's where the limitation on retail stores would go. If you determine that you want to have some type of limitation, then we will put that there either now or in the future, but that's why that section is reserved. In 3-55A, there's a blank there, and this is on location restrictions on retail liquor stores. And I talked with Mr. McCord to make sure that we had all of the zones. So the zones that are currently established for liquor stores in Gallatin are CC, CG, CS, PGC, PNC, MUG, and MUI. Those are the current zones. And what I would say is that we allow those and allow something that says, or any other district allowed by amendment of the city's zoning ordinance, because from time to time, the zoning ordinance is going to get amended, and we might not always remember to go and change that. So we'll just add that. In B, something that's not currently in our ordinance, but in talking with attorneys and in talking with some that deal almost exclusively in the alcohol world, they said if we're going to open it up, one thing that we could do for liquor stores is to put this limitation that someone can't open within 1,500 feet of an existing retail store. And that's what the state did. The state actually had a moratorium for a while on liquor stores when all of the wine and grocery stores was coming about, and they had a 1,500 feet distance requirement also. So that was what was suggested. That's what I've put in there. Most of the rest of that section has not changed. Because there was someone who talked about conflicts of interest in public comments, I will direct you to Section 3-59, general restrictions on retailers and employees, and you'll see in B, and this is state law. This is not something the city's doing. It does state there that a retailer's license cannot be issued to anyone who is a holder of public office, either appointed or elective, or is a public employee, either national, state, city, or county. It's unlawful for any person to have any interest in the retail business, directly or indirectly, either proprietary or by means of a loan, mortgage, or lien, or to participate in the profits of any business. And so if there's any concern with the public about a conflict of interest, I just want everyone to know that that's state law, and so it is in our ordinance as well. And then if you will look over in Section 3-59J, I have that highlighted because it states something that I think we need to discuss. The issuance of a license does not vest a property right in the licensee, but is a privilege subject to revocation or suspension under this chapter. And that's important because that also goes with state law. There is some case law that goes back years and years and years that says that there's no vested property right in a liquor store license. However, the city can restrict the number of retail stores. But there was someone who, from the public that spoke at one of our meetings, who said that it was considered a taking. And I researched that. I didn't feel like it was, but there is specific state law on that says it's not a taking. And so I just wanted to also mention that. And then if you will notice in section 3-60 on regulations, I just want to point out something that I've added at the end of subsection I. And it's just the last sentence. It says, "To the extent any provision of this section shall conflict with state law by amendment of state law or otherwise state law controls." And I've added that in several sections because, as I've stated, our current ordinance has some places in there that are in violation of state law. And so we must follow state law. And so anytime by case law or by statute if something happens, I just want everyone that's looking at our ordinances to realize state law controls if there's something that's in conflict with state law. And I don't really know that there's much else. Division 2 is on the retail sale of alcoholic beverages and wine for on-premises consumption. And I don't really think that much, I don't think anything there actually changed from our old ordinance. And then if you get into Article 3, this is the section on, the article on beer, Division 1. And this is on page 21 of the work session agenda. That's okay. And so generally, we just say it's lawful to manufacture, store, transport, distribute, sell, possess, receive beer within the city, but subject to the regulations and limitations of this article. At one point, we were not allowing any manufacturing, or actually, our current ordinance says distribution, which we do allow distribution in the city. And so we're just going to put in there that you'd already changed the manufacturing for alcohol and beer by resolution earlier, and so that's just stated there. And then we have some definitions, and those are all pretty much based on state law as well. Again, under 3-103, interpretation in the event of conflicts or inconsistencies, the laws of the state shall control. Then if you go down to Division 2, Beer Board, that kind of sets out who is on our beer, how many people are on our beer board and who governs. One thing that I added, and I would want the council to speak on here, at the very end of subsection B, members of the board shall receive no compensation. And I added that because our current ordinance says they receive compensation set by the council. But council has never set compensation of the beer board, and I think that can be confusing for members of the public who think maybe they're, what is the compensation because we've never had any. Now, if you want to compensate the beer board, we can take that out and you can allow some compensation. I don't think any of our other boards receive any compensation except for the Planning Commission. And of course, they're here quite often with heavy workload, but that is strictly up to this body. I was just trying to make it consistent with our current practice. But that is a policy decision that you guys will need to, you'll need to determine if you want to compensate or not.
Do we know what the compensation is now?
There is no compensation.
There isn't any, okay.
There is no, and that's why I was trying to make it consistent with our practice. I don't think Ms. Kittrell, you can correct me, I don't think there's ever been compensation of the beer board. No, okay, and so I was just making it consistent with our practice, and so that is clear. Don't think there's a lot more there you need to know about. If you go page 25, Division 3 permits, most of this has stayed the same, except now there's a manufacturer permit because we do allow manufacturing. There's a distributor permit, all this is defined. Off-premises retail permit, and there's two subclasses. There's package retail sales and then growler sales, and all of that was added probably about 5 or 6 years ago. So that hasn't changed. Then there's an on-premises retail permit, combined retail permit, a special event and a temporary permit. And again, that was added several years ago. None of that has changed. The only thing that was added was number 7, and that's on page 28, a caterer permit. And that's just because the beer board has asked me several times if we can get a catering permit, do we need one? But what you might want to understand, you have to go back and look at the definitions of a caterer. This is not someone who's operating out of their home catering. Caterer is defined by state law and the ABC and our statutes. And so it's someone, if you look back in the definitions, a caterer is defined as someone who operates a permanent catering hall or restaurant and has a complete and adequate commercial kitchen and is licensed as a caterer by the Tennessee Department of Health, or whose catering hall is licensed by Department of Health. So it's not someone who is operating out of their home, but this caterer permit would allow someone who fits that definition to get a permit and to actually go off-site to other events and have a permit. Privilege tax did not change. If you look on page 29, 3-155, look at H, there is a typo there. It says for on-premises permits, that's supposed to say for off-premises permits. For people to have off-premises permits, they can't allow beer to be consumed on their premises or on the adjoining sidewalks or streets or within 200 feet of the immediate premises, including the building and parking lot. And then you go down to the application for permit and fee. Don't think very much changed there. Really don't think there's a lot more that changed. Some of the prohibited activity, I just tried to update that for this century because there were some things in there in our current ordinance that I know the mayor had talked with me several times about, and some others with you couldn't have a billiard table, you couldn't, and so we have updated that a little bit. The rest of that section is, of that division is a responsible vendor certification for off-premises, and that's really for the beer board if there's a sting and someone has a responsible vendor certification, it does give them some privileges. They have to have lots of training for that. I did add section 3-208 for curbside delivery and pickup service, because so many people are ordering their groceries now, and I think it's already happening and it's allowed by law. So I did put it in our ordinance that they can order beer online and have it delivered to their car. And then the last article is brown bagging, and none of that changed from our current ordinance. That's kind of the high points. And if
Are
you
we
have
able to-
specific questions,
Yes, are we able to have drive and receive alcohol other than beer? Can you get margaritas?
we don't, you mean to go?
Yeah.
That's controlled by the ABC, the city does. We only can control the beer portion. That's controlled by the state. But I don't think, during COVID, the governor had an executive order that allowed to go margaritas and other beverages, and that has, I believe, ceased. And I don't know, there was some talk about having it extend and maybe a bill, but I don't know if that passed, I don't know.
I thought it did.
I think it did, I don't know.
We'll check on that.
Susan, I would like to say that I'm conflicted in several different ways, and I'll have to abstain from this vote. One more thing that I'd like to ask, though.
Okay.
Will the city, if I get involved in manufacturing of bourbon, or the city, would the city have to have a retail license?
I don't understand your question. What do you,
If someone was to manufacture bourbon, would that be a conflict? Would you have to have a retailer's license in
well, you
manufacturing?
would have to have a manufacturing license, probably, and that's ABC. Let me look and see. That was really this conflict of interest, I think, is for liquor stores. I'll probably need to look into that to answer you.
Say by abstaining.
Specific to distilleries.
I'll need to research that. I don't know off the top of my head if state law allows a public official to have a manufacturing permit. I don't know.
Okay, any questions, guys?
I have a question.
Okay,
Okay.
Ms. Lowe.
So this is geared towards opening it up to having as many, I mean, it's not going to be restricted in number for liquor stores.
That's correct. That's what the council directed me to do.
And I wasn't sold on that in the first place.
But I think if, what we did discuss, that you're going to need to determine either you're going to leave it like it is, if you're going to open it up, and if you're going to, I don't know what the thoughts, the different thoughts are, if you're going to open it up and lower the population limits back down, or if you're going to do it by number of stores. The legal issue that you get into when we change it that way, who are we going to give the license to? And how do you make that determination? Because I can tell you that Ms. Kittrell and I have both received multiple requests. None of them have been from the big box stores, but from local people that want to open in different parts of town, some of which are not as serviced right now, but some are in, other parts of town where there may be liquor stores. And so if you're going to open it up to, let's say, 2, what you're probably going to have to do is have some kind of lottery. And it'll be a blind drawing, and you will have no say-so in where the location is going to be, unless we're going to further amend it to say there can only be X number of liquor stores in a district. There are different things I guess you could do, but we have to be very careful about who is going to receive the license, and you have to make sure that there are no conflicts, and that there's no discrimination, and that it's done on a fair basis.
So Susan, if you opened it up and done a lottery, could you not put qualifications on there to be able to get into the lottery?
What type of qualifications?
Well, just, as you said, be sure that, that they're following our law and they're following,
Well, they have to do that to get a license, period.
okay, I understand, but,
That's already in the ordinance. You would have to they have to meet to get a permit or a license for their certificate of compliance. You have to do that anyway, and that's state law.
so if you just opened it up for a lottery, how would that work?
When you say,
And they'd have a deadline to submit by, and we draw or whatever.
and I honestly, I've not ever done that. I've talked to lots of attorneys who see the same concern about changing the number and making sure that there's no prejudice and there's no preferential treatment and there's no discrimination. And everyone said the only way you can do it is by lottery, but to my knowledge, I've not known any city that's done that. So I
So-
don't really know how that works, but I'm sure we could figure it out if that's what the council wants to do.
So what you're saying is even if we lower the number of residents and we add 2 or 3 stores, you're saying that we won't be able to do it the fair way? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you have to do it a fair way.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, how do you be sure we are? That's my question.
By opening it up completely.
That, or, the only other way is by lottery, where you can make sure that there is no preferential treatment, no discrimination, where you, put the names in a hat, or you do it publicly. I can think of some protections we can put around it, but you're going to have no control over who gets it and where the store goes.
And the reason I say that is because, I feel for the business owner that's been here for how many years, and they've got their license, they've invested some of them invested their life savings in a store. But I also understand that, there's folks that won't open up a liquor store, and I support them as well. But, so it's caught between a rock and a hard place. So what do you do? So I see both ways of it.
There has to be some way to divide it up. Sorry, Paige.
All right, wait
So
a s-
I'd like to see us open it up and get a couple more, but I don't want to open it up to any and everybody.
all right, let's get some control.
Huh?
Paige.
What'd you call me?
I said some control so I can see who's first, second, or third.
Hey, I do have one question, Ms. Hamcauley, and it's at 361 on inspection fees. And it says the inspection fees equal to 5% of the wholesale price of alcoholic beverages, including wine supplied by a wholesaler to any retail licensee located within the city. Is that an annual inspection, and is 5% what it's always been?
It's always been that way.
Okay.
That's not a change.
Well, I was just like, wow, but, surprised by that. But, so now I will get on my soapbox about it, because when we first started talking about this, because I did understand that our city is probably growing to the point where, we could accommodate another liquor store, and then we started talking about, well, capitalism would allow for, liquor stores to compete amongst themselves. And so at first, that kind of made sense to me, but then I started thinking about the fact that I knew that some of the people who had opened liquor stores in recent years had paid a premium to obtain an existing liquor license because they had the assurance that the city of Gallatin was limiting the per population store to 12,000 people. And especially since it has fairly recently changed to that. I mean, so they would think that that was appropriate. Like I said, that was preemptive when the wine was going into the grocery stores. I understand why that was done. It was done to, protect the I guess, business viability of the existing liquor stores. So now we're 8 years past that or something, and liquor store owners will tell you that it has impacted them, but that's been offset by the growth in our city to some degree. So that their impact has not been as terrible as, say, some city that hasn't grown and that kind of thing. So I worry about damaging people's investments. But the thing that really compelled me to dig my heels in and say, I don't want to open it wide up, is I don't want 14 grocery stores in Gallatin. I mean, not grocery stores, liquor stores in Gallatin. I don't want that, every corner to have a liquor store. I love our small liquor stores. I love the character and experience that they bring to residents. I would like to see them continue to grow and succeed and prosper. And what I wish that you all would support doing is lowering the threshold of the population from 12,000 to, say, maybe 9,000, so that at some point in the future, we will, because right now at 12,000, we're not going to get there in most of our lifetimes, right? So, that's a little far out there. But say you lowered it to 9, which would allow at, would it allow it at 63, or you'd have to wait until 72?
You have to wait till 72.
Okay, so say you lowered it to 8, so at, 64,000, you would have a space for another liquor store. And then you could have a 6-month window or a 3-month window, or whatever it is you wanted to have, a window where people could submit applications. And that way you're protecting the investments that have recently been made based on laws that the city of Gallatin had in place that people made decisions based upon. You're giving them some window of time before they know another liquor license is going to be up, and then you're creating a path for them to obtain that. You could.
So go back to my question, if you lower that number, and in 3 years from now, you got to where you could open up another one, how do we do it in a fair way, as I was just asking Sue?
I think that the road I was going down was saying maybe once and we'd have to decide whether we're going to use the projected population. What have we done in the past? Is it the census official projected population that we use as our threshold?
There really hasn't been a change. We changed it in 14 to 12, and I think that the other ones stayed the same, and then one was granted copper steel because there was no competition back then. They just came in and got one because the
Right.
population had grown.
Here's one thing I want to ask is, Paige, you bring up about these people had to pay a premium. Well, what's the difference if they was going to go to a city that had it open to everyone versus here? What premium did they pay?
They would pay nothing. There
They're still
wouldn't.
going to have to pay the cost anyway, or the
Right.
$250.
But what I'm saying is they had to pay a lot more to obtain someone else's liquor license versus a city where it's wide open. They're just doing the cost of opening a liquor store. And here,
Well, who controlled the price of that, and how much do we
we
know?
did because we set a limit. You know what I'm saying? We did, because
Well,
we set a limit.
we didn't control the amount.
Yeah, I
The-
mean, if I
Well,
got a
no,
liquor
no, I mean,
license, I wanna sell it to
but I'm
Craig, I
saying,
mean,
I'm saying the city having that control created the demand that made it more valuable for those investors.
I was just kind of curious of what kind of premium somebody had to pay. I mean, Copper Steel,
I think he said
did
several
he,
hundred
did he have to
thousand.
buy a previous liquor license, or he
Yes.
got a new liquor
Yeah,
license?
Yeah, he bought, a gentleman that spoke earlier, yes, he bought an existing license.
Wonder what kind of money that went for.
I have no idea.
I've asked,
25
I've,
what?
I got a question.
I've asked several attorneys.
25,000? 250,000? Okay, so I got an idea now of,
Plus the cost of
okay.
the
Was that
building
just
and
for the license, or did that include the building and all the inventory?
That was just the license, it was $140,000 for inventory and another $20,000 to $30,000 goodwill.
You know, I just I don't see a long line of people that's gonna be standing in line to get the liquor license to open up a store. I don't think it's gonna be that.
Well, again, Lebanon, who's close in size to us, has 14 liquor stores.
But there,
Well, I got a few questions.
They have more than that.
Statements I'd like to make. When we started the liquor in 67, is that what it was?
Yes, 1967.
The population was 13,000?
Oh, let me find my notes. About 13,000,
Okay, that's,
roughly.
they opened 3 liquor stores, and it was 4,333 people per store.
Correct, and so they had 3 until 1981, and then they changed it from a limit of 3 to
4,000.
population 5,500, and there was a population of about 17,000 roughly, probably a little bit less, well, maybe a little bit more, because that was in 1980, and it stayed that way until 2004, when they decreased from 5,500 to 4,000. And what's really interesting, we don't have a lot of good records, but sometime between 1981 and 2004, even though you had all of these population requirements in place, by 2004, there were 7 liquor stores.
Looks like we
according
breached
to
every
the-
ordinance that was put in. I can't vote for limiting the license as long as, if we don't limit liquor by the drink, we don't limit beer license, we don't limit insurance agents, we don't, muffler dealers, whoever.
Because we never have. I mean, but the problem is that we did. And so now we
We
have.
did, but things changed.
It's not
I
open
know,
to public
but-
comments, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So we've set a precedent over all these years, and the people that I represent have told me they don't want a liquor store on every corner like what you just said. They
You're
don't
not gonna
like
have a
that.
liquor store in every corner, because they all stood up here and said they got a low margin. My question is, if it's such a low margin, why did you get in that business?
That I'm not in that business.
Why would anybody? If your margin's that low, why do you invest your money in something there's no profit in?
They probably are making.
Look
a-
at
Not our
the building out here
business.
on the
That's not-
bypass,
that's
he
not our
probably spent $1 million
business.
or more there.
That's not our business. Our business is what's good for the city of Gallatin, and I agree with Ms. Love. I don't want, and somebody, I think somebody that spoke tonight said that Lebanon has 17 or 18, but I counted 13 when I was looking online for liquor stores in Gallatin, in Lebanon, and I don't want that for Gallatin.
And Lebanon just had a terrible wreck right on their square yesterday from a
And-
drunk driver. killed.
And part of the limitations too on liquor stores historically comes from the limitations that are set on them. In other words, how they are limited and how they have to do business. And so I think that's where that started back in, I guess, the 60s, where they limited them because they couldn't sell other things. It can only be liquor. They had to meet so many different regulations by the state and locals that it was kind of a difficult business to navigate anyway. And so they wanted to, I think they wanted probably to provide for success of the businesses, but also protect the communities from having liquor stores on every corner. I know that I know some of the cities around us that have liquor stores more recently are stressing over the numbers that have opened there.
You can
Councilman
only have a
Hayes.
liquor store where it's on commercial.
You got Councilman Hayes. in the queue.
Let's come on, I think Jimmy's on the right path. I think we probably, I think most of us want to see, maybe not Councilman Fan, but want to see us limited to the number of population. Let's come up with a number. I mean, do we want to do 8,000? We want to do 6,000? What do we want to do? What y'all think?
I think you want to set it at a number where you can allow for another one somewhere in the next couple of years.
I mean,
I
if
don't
we
have a
go,
problem-
makes
I don't
sense.
have a problem with adding one or two right now, but I think we
I
need to set that number where we can add some because of our population growth so much. But, you know,
if,
it's just
what do we
hard.
have now, 7? So if we go 1 every 6,000, what's that? That's 7, that's
No, we have
42.
12 right now. So if
He
you
means
go-
how many liquor stores, I
Oh,
think.
liquor stores,
Oh,
yeah.
liquor
yeah.
stores.
So at 48, that would allow for another one immediately. I would prefer that you pick a number that would allow for one in a few years. That way, the liquor store owners here that have been, you know, holding on to their licenses to be able to
I
sell
mean,
it,
I
they'd
don't,
have a
I don't mind
window.
going 1 every 7,000 or 1 every 8,000. So,
Right now, it's 12,000.
Is liquor stores the only business that we've got in Gallatin that is
yes.
Yes.
Protected.
protected?
Well, and that's because state law allows that. State law allows us to limit the liquor stores.
What do you
We're not
think,
really
Councilman
allowed to
Overton?
limit other businesses.
I'm agreeing with Craig
But,
and Jimmy.
I was going down the road a little while ago and I never
Let's-
finished. Councilman Overton talking about doing it fairly. I think if we agreed to do it based on the official census projected population at a new year, which would, we probably get those numbers, they're probably published in late fall. And so we could have an application period, say January through March, to be drawn on March 1 or something like that. If we did it too in the future, we would have the opportunity to set that process up to assure that it is done fairly.
And if you are going to do that, do you want to limit the number per district, or do you just want to let there be 4 or 5 in one district and one?
Just let them
Because
go
I think it all started
citywide.
thinking that there were some places in the city that were not served and that people are going to Hendersonville. It's kind of.
I would think that would be a key area for someone that wants to invest to target.
I do know people that have purchased property already to open a liquor store that's not in that area.
So what's a good number?
Well, isn't it 12,000 right now?
It's 12,000 now. That changed in 2014 because of the wine and liquor stores. Before that, it was at 4,000.
But it's never changed since 2014.
Now, remember, even though we're saying our population's at about 50, the census has us at 44 or something. which-
Right, when I looked up today, there was something from the, I think it's from the census, but it says our population right now is at 49,842, and I think that's what Mr. McCord had told us
But that's
a
not
few
the
weeks ago. I don't know
census
where that's not coming from the census. Okay.
source, not the
Sean, we have
census.
7 right now. Is that what you said, Susan? We have 7. So if we take it to 6, that'd be a very short time that somebody would be able to add one to.
Correct.
If we go down to 6,000.
Correct.
I think with that, we need to limit liquor by the drink. That's
We're
what
not allowed to do that.
restaurants.
We're not allowed to do that.
Huh?
We're not allowed by state law to do that.
Then
Is that a motion?
if you're protecting one, you need to protect the other.
Okay, if we do 6,000,
Can't
we have,
legally.
and we have 7 liquor stores, isn't that for 42,000?
Yes.
If you did
So then we can
6,500,
add one more now.
did 6,500, that would set the next benchmark at 52,000.
Which we'll reach soon, probably.
Huh?
We'll
I'd rather
probably
see
be
it
there
set at
before
7
long.
myself, which would put it at 56,000.
I would rather it be 7,000 too.
I don't have a problem. All right, is that a motion? Okay, I'll second that motion, 7,000.
Somebody repeat the motion, please. Whose motion was it?
It was mine.
Is yours, Linda?
I move that we limit the number of liquor stores based on population of 1 per 7,000 people.
Is that citywide, district, or? Citywide.
Okay, Ms. Love has got a motion. It's been properly seconded by Councilman Hayes. Open for discussion. Do we have any discussion on this? Was you raising your hand, Councilman Fan?
No, that's,
I think you need to move the whole ordinance forward and add that in section.
Was
Reserved.
3-56, maybe?
Okay, let's go back. Do we have a motion on the original ordinance?
53-54.
It's fine to move forward with what she's made the motion, but I'm saying then I think you also need to take the whole
Okay,
ordinance.
so we're gonna take Linda's ordinance and we're gonna insert it into what?
354.
Where it
Section
says reserved.
3.55, under,
Kind of feel like maybe
A.
we do need to know if everyone is in favor of that before we move the whole thing on.
But I would vote on just Linda's motion first and then take the whole
vote
ordinance.
on what I was doing.
Because you'll have to,
Okay, we're in the question phase of this now. Any
And
questions?
Can I
or
make, can I
discussion?
please make a comment?
Go ahead.
There will be more in 3-54 than that one thing, because there's some other language that will need to go along with that that's in our current ordinance. So I'm just letting you know, it won't just say that. There will be, it will mirror probably fairly closely what's in our current ordinance, except that we will change the limitation from 12,000 to 7,000.
Okay, so we got a motion, we got a second, we was in discussion.
Yes, so if this passes, then you could have 4 or 5 in one district, then you could have a district with none at all. Is that correct?
I think that's the way it is though already.
Just as long as it's 1,500 foot away.
It won't change at all. Everything that we have right
The
now
district that's
stays.
already suffering without them still be suffering without them.
True, there's.
and we've seen some of ours change locations. Some of our existing ones have changed locations. You know, Red Carpet went
Yeah,
from
but most
downtown.
people gonna go where all the traffic is on the main thoroughfare. They're not gonna hardly come over to the 5th District. We get thirsty over there sometime too.
Even, I just got to voice my opinion, even though that I'm going to abstain from the
Copper's
vote.
still in the 5th district?
Okay, I can't hear. There's a lot of,
I was going to voice my opinion, even though that I'm abstaining from the vote in conflict, I still, being a business owner for my years, I still agree with everything that Steve Fan had to say. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I do.
And one abstention.
What do we
You
vote?
voted, didn't you?
I don't
We
know.
voted on Linda Love's motion right there, and then it was seconded by Craig Hayes. That's what,
On what?
Just the
Dr.
population.
7,000?
yes.
yeah. Okay,
Okay,
One no
so the
vote, one
is
abstention.
5 ayes, 1 no, and 1 abstention.
that is correct. Okay, now that brings us to the original ordinance. Do we have a motion on original ordinance?
Yes.
Susan will have to bring it to us next Tuesday, correct,
You can
Susan?
vote to move it forward.
Can vote to move it forward.
Then you change it before.
A
Unlimited.
motion from Councilman Hayes to move it forward. Got a second by, was it Councilman Alexander?
Yes,
Open for
unlimited.
discussion, excuse me?
Unlimited, that's what he's.
We're just motioning to take this ordinance that Susie had, send it on up to council, and then she's gonna revise it, correct?
So we've already voted on,
How we want it.
what just happened was the council is now saying they don't want to open it up.
So she-
They're going to change it to
So
7,000.
she's got direction on how to write the new ordinance.
Don't want to open it up.
Right. That's what we just voted on.
Okay, I thought Jim was saying it was no limit, okay.
Well, that was originally what council had directed, but tonight, Ms. Love made the motion for 7,000 and it got seconded and that got approved 5-1.
Are you still good
5
with
to
your
1 to
second?
1.
You want to withdraw your second, or are you still on it?
I guess I'm drunk, go ahead.
He's still on it, okay. Any more questions? Seeing none, let's go ahead, John D.
I just see where, my district's gonna suffer, that's all. I don't see any liquor stores, over in the 5th District, and I want my district to grow like all the rest.
But the thing is, they have a choice to go there if they want to.
Yes.
You can't force them to go there.
No,
I mean,
no, but you
got-
can make it more appetizing for them to go,
Copper Steel-
because,
Copper
common
Steel
sense
district.
gonna tell you, everybody's gonna go where the traffic is, on National Pike
And
or
Copper Steel
somewhere.
in your district?
What's that?
Craig, you want to turn your mic on?
In Copper Steel in your district?
Mine cut off at the bridge, I don't think it's in my district.
Except in front of Cambridge, I think
No,
that's.
no, that's not in,
that's in,
no, that's not in my district.
Okay,
I
what kind of-
understand what John D's talking about, but we've already got 7 that are, they're spread wherever they are.
Susan, can we discuss that more on the ordinance night?
Yes, you can discuss it next week.
Okay, let's call this question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
One abstention. All right, so we got that taken care of. So now let's move to number 2. This is ordinance number 02205-23. This is appropriating additional funds in the amount of $750,000 for natural gas line extension under existing contract. Contract 2009 annual natural gas line construction. This should be David Kellogg.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Fennell. This is an ordinance to appropriate additional funds from gas reserves for natural gas main and service line extensions under our existing contract.
Motion to approve.
We got a motion to approve by Councilman Hayes. We got a second by Councilman Overton. Open for discussion. We got any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go, Ms. Kittrell. All right, and this is moving on down to third on the agenda, ordinance number 02205-24, appropriate funds for the amount of $700,000 from natural gas reserves for engineers services for the West Loop Gas Main Extension Project. Department Head Kellogg.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Fennell. This is for engineering design, easement acquisition, and permitting services for our West Loop Gas Extension Project, which will extend the gas main from Hancock Street and the 109 bypass, and the 109 bypass out the new Albert Gallatin to old 109 North. And it'll loop 2 of our district stations together, provide some redundancy in our system and some capacities.
Second.
Second.
We got a motion by Councilman Overton. We got a second by Councilman John D. Alexander. Open for discussion. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to jump down to number 5. This is ordinance number 02205-21. This is a, excuse me, I had it X'd out. This is ordinance number 02205-19. This is appropriating $2,125 from revenue received from insurance for building repair to annex.
Second.
Well, what about Chief Bandy? Would you like to say something? Roll with it. Roll with it. We got a motion by Councilman Hayes. Who seconded that?
I did.
Second by John D. Alexander. Open for discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we're at ordinance number 5 on the agenda, ordinance number 02205-21. This is appropriating $31,073.67 for revenue received from insurance for damaged vehicles.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilman Hayes. We got a second by Councilwoman Love. Open for discussion. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed.
Thank you.
Motion carries. All right, now we're moving along, except for now. This is number 6 on the agenda. This is ordinance number 02203-14. This is adopting Plan Gallatin, the City of Gallatin Comprehensive Plan. Matt Harris and Bill McCord. We got Matt up here. All right, we got the timer set. Go ahead, Matt.
All right, so I've been asked to keep this to 5 minutes, and while I can't do that, I will speak in increments of 5 minutes, and you get to guess how many increments. So, no, thanks for letting me come back and talking about Plan Gallatin. This has been an ongoing project for the last several years, and at our last conversation about this, we were asked to give you guys printed copies of the plans. You had a chance to review those, and I hope you've had a chance to do that. So my goal tonight is to give you kind of an overview of the key points of the plan, give you an opportunity to ask questions, and get the conversation started about getting this approved so we can keep moving along. So the purpose of Plan Gallatin is to position the city to manage growth according to the visions of the residents and the businesses who invest here. Plan Gallatin kicked off in June of 2019, and has had a process that included multiple open events in each of the districts to allow the public to comment, town hall style conversations, public comments received through all of these different events, 4 different surveys that were open to the public. And the last of it is the Planning Commission spent 8 months reviewing this plan, working on the document, going page by page through hundreds of comments from the community, from staff, and everything that had been received from the project. So it's been a very thorough project, and I think we're proud of what we've got for you guys to look at. So the plan's broken down essentially into 9 chapters, and we'll talk a little bit about just kind of the key points of each one of these chapters. Chapter 1 talks about the purpose of the plan, and this is an important one to keep in mind. This plan is an advisory recommendation to the development or redevelopment of the city. This is not a set in stone. It's a visionary piece. So the intent of this document is to present a vision for what the next 20 years of growth is anticipated to look like for the city of Gallatin. So key points that we talk about in the first chapter, one is what's the difference between the plan and a zoning ordinance. So this plan generally guides land use decisions as an advisory document, where the zoning ordinance is a part of that municipal code that gets more into the meat and potatoes of what you can and can't do in certain zoning districts. And we'll talk a little bit more about the zoning districts and that process towards the end of this presentation. So one of the key points to keep in mind is this plan can be changed. It's a comprehensive plan that is intended to be changed and amended, major amendments every 5 to 7 years. But as development changes, as the population changes, the needs of the city are going to change. It's not possible to sit here today and predict what the next 20 years is going to be. So as the Planning Commission works through this, as things change, this document will come back for recommendations to be modified where it makes sense. There we go. So the second chapter of Plan Gallatin talks about our growth and building on our history. So key points to keep in mind: from 1870 to 1950, the city grew less than 3,000 people. So about a 66% growth over 80 years. From 1950 to present, the growth escalated from 5,102 to 44,431. So that's 771% growth in 70 years. The reasons for this growth, things like Old Hickory Lake becoming impounded, Highway 386, widening to 109, there are a lot of factors that have led to the growth that the city of Gallatin has seen, and it's going to continue to drive growth into the future. Through the studies, 60% of the state of Tennessee's growth over the next 25 years is going to happen in Nashville and the surrounding counties. The number of jobs are expected to double. Middle Tennessee counties are beginning to grow together in a continuous footprint. You see this happening in cities that are major metropolitan areas that are further ahead than we are: Charlotte, Atlanta. There's areas where the boundaries between the cities start to get, to disappear. Kind of what we've seen between Hendersonville and Gallatin. So, and that is important then for the communities to work together to ensure Middle Tennessee as a whole is a quality place for people. Feedback we received from the community through the outreach programs, through the surveys, is that development is not inherently bad. So the feedback we got is people understand development's necessary and that it's going to happen. The city should evolve into more compact and walkable community. And I think we're seeing this as, more projects get closer in the town, more walkable communities, less sprawl, if you will. And one of the key things we heard a lot was that housing is a complex issue that there's not clear solutions to. And that's going to continue to be a conversation as we go forward, as our population continues to grow. And then the last one, transportation is key. We hear from a lot from the public about the infrastructure and transportation and making sure we're doing a good job of guiding the transportation infrastructure to accommodate the growth that's already here and that's growing. So the vision statement we talked about in Chapter 3 is Gallatin will strive to become among the safest, smartest, and healthiest small cities in America. I think the good news is we're we've done a good job of that, and we're on our way. Key points in kind of chapter 3, and this feeds into the next chapters that I'm sure you've looked at in more detail. But the goals, build a prosperous community, create that sense of place that the residents are looking for, provide a livable community, and invest in the quality infrastructure. Chapters 4 through 7 of the plan dive deeper into those goals and where they need to be applied. So as the planning department, the planning commission is reviewing projects and potential growth, these goals and objectives are going to be evaluated against those projects to see how they fit with the plan that we've agreed to follow. Chapter 8 is the core of Plan Gallatin. And this chapter starts getting more into the future development, the character area policies, and how those are further defined into each area and where we anticipate seeing those grow. And key factors and how those key factors go into growth. So things like infrastructure investments that are driving growth. Again, Highway 109 being completed is going to continue to drive growth here. With the Highway 386 extension and some of those repairs being put into the governor's budget, those infrastructure things are going to continue to make growth possible and even more practical in parts of the city. And so we need to anticipate that we're going to see growth in certain areas as the infrastructure is catching up. Market demand is also driving growth. The city of Gallatin, Tennessee as a whole, has done a wonderful job of being fiscally responsible as compared to a lot of parts of the nation. And so it's natural that people are moving here. And in a way, they're telling the city of Gallatin, thank you for doing a good job. And as people continue to come, we need to continue to try to do the right things and be smart about how we grow the city. So this is a map of the current zoning throughout the city of Gallatin. And this is an important point that I want to make. Plan Gallatin does not change any zoning in any part of the city. So adopting this plan doesn't change current zoning anywhere in the city. In order for zoning to be changed, the property owner has to request it and has to be approved by planning commission and the city council before that gets done. Anticipated degrees of change. So the areas you can see in the lighter areas, more the outskirts of town, that's where we perceive or project there could be minimal change over the life of this document. The middle is that nurture-focused support areas that are, for the most part, developed out, that are already high density or completed, if you will. And then the bottom, the more intensive growth, accelerated proactive change, those are areas that the studies and the research are telling us that's where we're most likely to see the future growth and the more intensive growth as it comes. So this is the character area map that is overlaid on the city. And so we've broken this down into a couple of different. So the downtown core, that's the dark red piece in the center. So if you think about this as more intense to less intense development or units per acre, that type of thing. Going to general urban, suburban, the rural countryside. So if you think about it, those areas are following major thoroughfare corridors and areas that have already been developed, if you will. The community character map is kind of supported with the area definitions, and this is a little bit of a departure from what we've seen in the past with, say, Gallatin on the Move 2020. They got much more specific and detailed. And the way this is laid out, if you look at the top row of pictures, the land use is talking about the way the land should be used in that downtown core. So using photos as examples of the types of growth you could expect to see, transportation, the type of transportation that might be needed to support that, and then what types of open space areas we'd be looking for in those areas. So the two at the bottom, they're probably the most critical, is that typical form and the residential, the recommended density key. So those pieces are going to talk about the types and forms of buildings that we expect to see in that particular character area, and then the recommended density key. So in this case, the low end range, that 15 to 44 units, up to the higher end range of 65 to 100 units per acre of the development. So obviously, the downtown core we plan to see that grow in a much more intense way than some of the other areas. The general urban community character area, again, this is going to be more residential applications, single-family homes, multifamily, say, townhome type products. Transportation is going to be more suited for those types of developments, more open space, parks, recreation areas to serve the type of people that would live in those areas. And then again, the typical form and the density key. So you'll see the lower end density in this area, it's 5 to 9 acres per unit, up to the higher end of, I think it says 15 to 35. My eyesight's only so good from here to the screen.
Good.
And then the less suitable areas, so the plan's also given us some guidance on what's less suitable in this particular area. And, the traditional sprawl neighborhoods of the cul-de-sac type neighborhoods, we want to see more connectivity with the neighborhoods, the big box retail, restaurant, like say drive-through services, are things that are less desirable in this general urban core. The suburban core, again, is becoming more residential, single-family home driven, more open space. And then the recommended density key, again, it's going down that lower end of 2 to 3 units per acre up to 4 to 5 units per acre of residential. So again, further out from the main areas, the less dense the development becomes. And then again, things that are less suitable. The rural character area, again, it's more agricultural, more rural, larger lots, density from, up to 1 unit per acre to that kind of 1.5 to 2 units per acre. So preserving more of the rural feel, the large lots, and making sure there's opportunities around the perimeter and those areas of Gallatin for those larger lot subdivisions and homes that people want. And then kind of lastly, dropping in this natural conservation area, designating areas of the city of Gallatin for parks, for recreation, for areas that are meant to stay as open space and be preserved for the general community throughout the city. One of the other areas that we have, and this is a carryover from past plans that exist of the sub-area designations. The purple color is mixed-use commercial areas and some of the overlay districts that are throughout the city. The blue mixed activity centers where, like I think the number 3 is the Nexus project up by 109, where you've got a mix of retail, commercial type developments. And then the grays are major employment centers. So this is our industrial area, the industrial park, and then I think the number 6 is an area that's got some future potential to develop in some way for more job type creation. So they're kind of getting to the end of the plan, Chapter 9. So the public charter, or Chapter 1101, the Acts of Tennessee from 1998, requires Tennessee counties to provide a countywide growth plan to identify urban growth boundaries for each municipality within the county. And so what you can see here is the Gallatin planning area, the urban growth boundary. That bold line around the city is what Sumner County and Gallatin have essentially agreed is where we expect to see the city of Gallatin expand through future annexations as the city grows. So this is actually a requirement in the law that we have this agreement with the county so that property owners inside of there, know and aware that this is the area the city is going to expand in the future. So the boundaries not only identify the rural areas for planned growth, but property that's anticipated for future annexation. So that line's important because this is when people are bringing projects to the city or looking at developing property. When it's inside of our urban growth boundary, then our guidance is the comprehensive growth plan to evaluate what makes sense in those areas. We kind of reiterating where I started with this. Plan Gallatin is a guidebook. It does require immediate work on a new zoning ordinance, and that process is in the beginning stages. Now that we have our character area overlays and we know what those areas are potentially going to look like, is beginning the process of getting a zoning ordinance revised and updated. And that's a project that is going to be very, very important going forward. Looking at things like form-based codes for special areas like the downtown sectors, where we create more of a general guide of the forms and types of buildings as opposed to a rigid code. That gives some more flexibility for unique opportunities to develop those areas. And then kind of lastly, as Chapter 9 closes out the plan, really the plan is about creating the next steps. And things like that we've talked about wanting to see in the future is traffic level of service plans. And what that's talking about is level of service plans for roads and for areas that are easier to evaluate developments and the impact that traffic may have on an area, and whether or not the infrastructure is at a high enough level to support that growth. Major thoroughfare plans, historic plans, technology plans, and solid waste. So Plan Gallatin is the guidebook. There's still a lot of work left to do to using this as a guide to revise and update the plans that our city departments use to manage growth and make decisions for the city. And again, last statement, our goal is to position the city to manage growth according to the vision of the residents and the businesses who invest here.
That was great, Matt.
So, any questions I can ask about it, Mr. McCord is available. If there's questions you want to ask, I'll be hanging around in future meetings to try to add input where I can and hopefully not muddy the waters.
I think we need to articulate the charge to this council, which is to make sure that you all are aligned with the plan as it exists. And I think the focus that we need to have is on the character areas. I know I have one that I'm particularly honed in on that I want to see shifted to something with a little bolder vision. But if you have seen areas that you think this is not what my vision is for this area, then we need to discuss it and we need to hash it out and figure out if we want to change it as a council on the plan. But as I said early on, I really don't want to undermine the work that the Planning Commission has done in any way. So I hope that if we proceed and request changes, that we could send it back to the Planning Commission and see if they can agree with us on it. Because we both need to, the Planning Commission's passed this. I would like to see us align. And I think we can get there. I absolutely think we can get there.
I do too. One of the things that is different about this is the Planning Commission, with Gallatin on the Move 2020, it was adopted by the Planning Commission, but it was never adopted by City Council. So we've had not really a conflict, but we never had a meeting of the minds with the Comprehensive Growth Plan in the past. And something that's very important to the Planning Commission today is that the Planning Commission and the Council have a meeting of the minds and agreement on where we want the Comprehensive Growth Plan to go, so that when you see plans coming out of Planning Commission with a recommendation and coming to Council, that it's all being done based on kind of the agreed upon guidance for the city between both bodies.
And the benefit to this council is that if you've been on the Planning Commission, like a few others have, you know this, but the Planning Commission focuses heavily when you're talking about changing character areas. Well, now the council will be able to weigh in on that as well. And so even in areas where we may have if we can't reach an agreement on, and maybe it's not what we boldly envision for an area, if a developer in the future brings some kind of project that compels us to change that character area, the Planning Commission and the City Council both will have to say, yeah, we're good with changing that character area because it makes sense for our city.
Any other questions?
So if we come into an agreement, then we have, the next time we can make a change is in 5 years? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, you can make changes along the way. I mean, that's what I was talking about the Planning Commission voting on.
Right.
But once this body passes it, they will also vote to change that character area. But what I was talking about in us getting agreement is, as far as the character areas go, and you have a map, but you've really got to go in and zoom in and look at what roads are where and what is there and what you think should be there someday, and bring those to this body so we can talk them out and see what changes, if any, we're going to agree that we want made to this, and then we can take it to the Planning Commission and say, are you guys good with this too?
Okay, so Councilman George, may to expand upon your question. So we're talking about the plan, every 5 to 7 years would be major updates to the plan.
Okay.
So more thorough reviews and changes. The comprehensive plan is intended for minor changes. So as the mayor's, mentioning, when a project comes before us that's compelling, that justifies making a change to the plan as we go along, it's designed to be able to do that, to give us that latitude to use the judgment of the planning commission and the council to make good decisions where they need to be made. But the 5 to 7 years is more targeted towards major updates and reviews.
So Mayor, if we have some concerns with some of the character maps, or do we want to get into them tonight and discuss them? We want to put on another,
It's up to y'all.
I don't care.
I think you need to bring up whatever you think is,
Well, I have a couple that I would just like to get some explanations on from Matt or Bill or whoever. One of them would be the area out around Nichols Lane where we have proceeded to request the first of those farms out there that's trying to sell to put a roadway in.
Yeah, talking about the Clear Lake Meadows.
Yes, and also in the area around Odoms Bend Road. I'd just like to know those two areas and why they've come up with the character that they've come up with on those particular areas.
Well, I think,
Is that, is that,
well, I listened to all the planning commission discussion, and you guys weigh in if I'm wrong. But I think the area in the Lot 4 area that you're talking about, I think the concern there was that there be made a connection to Clear Lake Meadows or a connection that alleviated the pressure on Lot 4 Road. And so they didn't want to put that in there with something more intensive than the rural character without that being reconciled. I would think that you could put it in there as, say, a suburban, but you want that caveat that, depends upon road connection being established by
absolutely,
development.
and that's where I'm going with it.
And then the Odoms Bend property, which is the area that I really am, the one that I talked about, that I cared a lot about, that to me is our last potential waterfront development in Gallatin that could be, financially meaningful to the community in some way. I think it was left rural because there are not utilities in that area. So I also think that you could do something similar there and move it to either suburban or even general urban, because anybody that's been around knows I'm always talking about resort and conference center. So you could move that to suburban or general urban, again with the, asterisk bold print that says, would require a developer to put utilities in this
I agree
area.
100%.
That kind of thing, so that there's a clear understanding that they just can't come in and say, we're rezoning this because you say we can. It has to be.
And I think one of the reasons some of these areas were left rural was to emphasize that without that connection to Clear Lake Meadows, it doesn't make sense to develop that property.
Infrastructure's needed.
Because the infrastructure needs to be there. If a developer or landowner came in with a project and said, well, we understand that's why it's that way, but we're willing to build the road, fix the infrastructure, and do that, then that would be going back to the case of amending the plan because there's a compelling reason to do so.
And that's what I want to be sure we do. If this area is developed and it's obvious that, there's been a lot of talk about folks trying to buy it now, I just want to be sure that we have the ability and we get everybody to understand when they buy this property that we're going to require them to put in the infrastructure, so we don't have to put in the infrastructure and make the developers do that. So I just want to be sure we're at the ability to do that.
You could either work it the way that I described, or you could leave it as is and put notations that indicate that, that specific rural area and that specific rural area could be changed to suburban or even general urban based upon the infrastructure improvements that happen in that area, and the council express their support of that in the discussion of this plan. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here.
And that's my point. There's a lot of farmland there and other places as well. It's just like Odoms Bend Road that, we do want to be sure that the infrastructure gets put in, and we want to be sure the city don't have to do all that infrastructure, so.
I mean, to me, it's not really that different than what we're looking at in some of the other areas, because, not all the infrastructure is there to support everything there. I mean, you look at a lot of like the suburban area, particularly, I guess, north towards the east, there's not the infrastructure there yet, but there, so,
Okay, do we have any more questions?
Are we
Need to figure out
bringing
how
up
you want to
everything
proceed with
tonight?
this.
Are we bringing up all changes tonight, or are we?
I think there is going to be some more discussion on it. So, I mean, I think I'd like to see it on next committee meeting too,
All right.
to do that.
Next committee
All right.
meeting, I am presenting the budget, just FYI.
That is the night you're going to present the budget page? Do we need to move it to the,
No, I'm just preparing you. You know me, the budget won't
I
take
mean,
a terribly
and there
long
might not
time
be a
to
lot of
present.
stuff to discuss on it. I mean, but there is going to be other stuff that's going to come up, I'm sure.
let's
so.
put it on the agenda then.
Fine. I'm good with that. I just wanted to point out
Matt, can you
those.
be back?
Yeah, I'll be available.
Well, and I'm hoping too that this discussion will then allow either property, or not allow, but it's always allowed, but will kind of move either property owners or interested parties to come forward and say, hey, I'm not okay with this, or hey, what about this, or.
That's right.
Because I think it took so long in the planning commission process that people just could not be engaged every time you met and talked about it.
Right.
And so I'm hopeful that with us talking about it at the city council level, that we can, hear from some of those, like I said, stakeholders. Thank you so much. You did a great job.
All right,
Thanks,
Thanks.
Matt.
Have a great night.
There's one other thing on the recommendation. It's got February 28th, 2028.
That would be when the planning commission, wait. What now?
Under agenda number 6, under recommendation.
Oh, that was that one, that's not when, 2028.
Typo, I think.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys, let's move on.
All messed up.
Okay, we're moving to item number 7. This is ordinance number 02205-22. This is appropriating funds for the 2022 year-end budget adjustments. Miss Rachel Nichols.
There's an ordinance before you to make a number of changes throughout the budget in an attempt to make sure none of our accounts go over for the year end. First one is where we received additional funds for the Shop with a Crop program. We need to get those budgeted and on the books. Next item is the IDB, HDH, FB funds on the pilots that they do. We need to get that in the books. $300,000 item of gas depreciation expense. That's just where we did not budget the correct amount in the original budget. That was an oversight on my part, I apologize. Next item will be budgeting the state's training supplements for the police department and fire department that we get annually. Then we get into a list of things. Several of them are related to long-term employees who retired this fiscal year that had a large payout of their sick leave amounts. A couple of these line items are related to the 4-step bumps that we did in the fall, and some of the smaller departmental budgets did not have any additional funds to cover those adjustments, so we're cleaning those up. Our vehicle maintenance has had additional work, some large repairs to do, so that increases a revenue line and an expenditure line. And then we had 3 police grants that we missed picking up in the carryover ordinance in September of last year. These are ongoing grant projects that we needed to budget the remaining balances on those. Then within the water sewer, we have some adjustments for, again, the 4 steps that were bumped on certain jobs in the fall. And they also had a couple of retirees with some large payouts. And then we have some, moving some money around on some of the Project Woolhawk or Facebook additions. Some of the money was in the water and we need to move it over to sewer where the expenses actually occurred. So that was a quick rundown. If you have any questions about specific lines, I'll be glad to answer, but it's just cleaning up so that none of our budgets go in the red for the year end.
Motion approved adjustments.
We have a
Second.
motion by Councilman Overton. We have a second by Councilwoman George. Is that correct? Open for discussion. Seeing no discussion, call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous, Ms. Kittrell. All right, moving down to number 8, this is financial reports for March. Ms. Nichols.
Included in your packet were the financial reports for the month of March. And again, we continue to do well. We're getting closer to year end, thus the previous ordinance to adjust a few things. And then before the meeting, I passed out the latest and greatest on the sales tax revenue numbers. We had 12 consecutive months of receiving over $1 million in sales tax revenues, which is
That's
a record
amazing.
for
We
Gallatin.
were ecstatic. Rachel
That's
didn't think,
amazing.
Rachel didn't think we were going to hit it in February, and it actually exceeded January. So
That is
that was pretty
amazing.
wild.
Historically, February will dip down a little bit, but we actually went up a little bit. So we actually have 12 months of over $1 million in sales tax, which is fabulous, buy local.
Great.
Buy local, buy
Yeah,
local.
Buy local, buy local. So those are the financials. Any
Thank you very
questions?
much, Ms. Nichols. Any more questions for Ms. Nichols? Thank you. All right, now we're going to move down to other business. Any department heads, anybody? Anybody from the audience?
No.
All right, now we're going to move to department heads. Anybody from the department heads want to come up and say anything? All right, last motion. Got a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's it.
Good job.